Well, folks, ARK Invest has been accumulating another company, and this one is particularly interesting because not only is it making a very bullish chart pattern, but it has a very low float. So if any decent buying pressure comes into this stock, it could send it to the moon. In this video, I'm going to tell you who they are, what they do, plus go over their chart as well as some other nice looking charts I see right now. If you're new to the channel, I like to find short-term and long-term trading and investing opportunities in typically lower-priced stocks. I like to find undervalued, underappreciated stocks with high growth potential and talk about all other things finance-related as well. If that's something that interests you, please consider subscribing so you don't miss any future trading or investing ideas. And remember, I am not a financial advisor, so please do all of your own research before buying any of these stocks. The company I'm talking about in this video is Repare Therapeutics, ticker symbol RPTX. Repare Therapeutics Incorporated is a precision oncology company that discovers and develops novel therapeutics by using its synthetic lethality approach in Canada. Its SniperX platform begins with a genome-wide CRISPR-based screening approach that utilizes proprietary isogenic cell lines, which are cell lines that are identical with the exception of a single genomic alteration to identify novel synthetic lethal gene pairs. Their systematic and comprehensive screening approach has been optimized to significantly reduce false negatives, providing the opportunity to identify a larger and more accurate set of SL interactions as compared with those who have been reported with other CRISPR-based screening technologies. Now, what is CRISPR screening? CRISPR screening is a large-scale genetic loss-of-function experimental approach designed to find the equivalent of a few needles in a haystack. CRISPR screening facilitates discovery of key genes or genetic sequences that elicit a specific function or phenotype for cell type. So in layman's terms, one of the main goals are to identify genes for DNA sequencing that lead to a particular disease. The CRISPR technology, as it's used by many researchers, is a method of making double-strand cuts at specifically targeted sites in the DNA. When such cuts are produced in genomic DNA cells, these cells use their DNA repair systems to mend the cuts. Now, they use their proprietary genome-wide CRISPR-enabled SniperX platform to systematically discover and develop highly targeted cancer therapies focused on genomic instability, including DNA damage repair. Their pipeline currently has several products, and it's at the beginning stages with only one treatment in the clinical trial phase, so this company is still very speculative at this point. Now, ARK Invest has been adding Repare Therapeutics to their ARKG fund, and let's take a look and see exactly how much they've been buying. On 11/13, they bought 6,580 shares. The day before, on 11/12, they bought 6,304 shares. The day before that, on 11/11, they bought 5,636 shares. And on 11/2, they bought 2,219 shares. And October 29th, they bought 130,874 shares. And the day before, on October 28th, they bought 29,816 shares for a total of 181,429 shares. All right, everybody, let's head over to the charts. And this is Repare Therapeutics daily chart, ticker symbol RPTX. And right here is about the area where ARK was accumulating. And as you can see, they did not move the price very far, which is unusual for ARK, especially when they're trying to accumulate one of these low float stocks. And we can take a look at some of these days and see exactly how low of trading volume these things have. I mean, excuse me. Just a couple days ago, it only traded 79,000 shares. A couple days before that, it only traded 66,000 shares. A couple days before that, only 23,000 shares. Now, this day right here, this big, I guess you could call it a doji, was the day that ARK Invest bought 130,000 shares, and the trading volume on that day was 324,000 shares, so ARK was almost half on that day. But this is a very, very thinly traded stock, so if ARK would get super aggressive in this, we could see a very, very fast and big price appreciation. Let me go to the hourly chart intraday, and I showed this chart a couple of days ago in one of my videos, and this is, I'll just go over it one more time, but this is why I love this stock right now, not just the fact that ARK Invest is accumulating it, but because it's making this very bullish pattern. We got the lows that are rising into this resistance area, and it's putting a lot of pressure on that line, and eventually, if it does get a breakout, it should be a nice sharp break. Now, my optimal entry point, I don't own the stock right now, but my optimal entry point would be if it did something like this. If it pulls down and then starts heading back higher, this is about where I would like to buy. If it moved back above the 8-period exponential moving average and proved that the trend was starting to accelerate, that's when I want to jump on the train and ride it for as far as I can. Let me get these things out of here real quick. But going back to the daily chart, we can see this triangle consolidation pattern probably just a little bit clearer. And it is in the squeeze as we speak. So a blast up could be sharp and fast. You know, I might not even be able to get in this if it moves up that fast, and it certainly could because this float is super low. Excuse me. Let's go over to a stock that I put in my video the other day, Solo. I just want to take a look at this one real quick, and as we can see, it is still holding near the highs of the day. It's very, very strong. I expected a much bigger pullback than what it's getting right now. And if we go to the hourly chart, we can see that it is definitely holding its own. So if it goes sideways here, we could see another big move up. I was kind of hoping it was going to pull back farther. It still could. I mean, right now it's kind of in limbo, so you don't know which way it's going to go. But I was hoping it was going to get a pull down a little bit farther, and if it starts to turn around again, then I want to re-enter the stock and hopefully catch another wave up. But as of today, Solo is still very strong. I mean, and look at the volume that it had yesterday. I mean, it had, geez, what, about 175 million shares, and you're talking about a stock that normally trades right around 10 million shares, and it did 175,000 or 170 over 170 million shares. So just an enormous pickup in volume. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit to see another move up in Solo. Now, another stock that I talked about was Arcimoto, and that ticker symbol is FUV, and this trend is already starting to accelerate. As you can see, this pattern is super bullish. You know, we'd had this big move up in June, and it has been holding pretty much all of the gains, just going sideways, and now this trend is starting to accelerate, and it's threatening to make new all-time highs. Let me get that box out of here, and then let's go intraday. I'll show you why I liked this one so much. As we can see, we've got these lows rising, showing you that the trend is getting stronger. And we got one of these creeping weak trends. You know, it makes a new high above the recent pivot high and then pulls back into it. Makes another pivot high, or makes another high past that pivot, pulls back into the trend. Another high, pulls right back into the trend. And now we are starting to see the acceleration because it breaks above the resistance area and then touches it and moves higher. You know, it did not pull back into below this last high. The trend is starting to accelerate, and as we can see, it's holding it and starting to blast off, and it still hasn't fallen below this 8-period exponential moving average. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit when it touches this white line, we get another sharp move up, and that propels FUV into new all-time highs. So these EV stocks are certainly hot, and we need to keep them on our watch list and look for possible good entries. Let me take a look at one of my favorite penny stocks, Nano Dimensions. Excuse me. Nano Dimensions is still strong on the day. It's still staying above that trend line. Let me create a parallel line here. And we can see if we take away this move higher, it is in a very nice looking upper trend channel right now. And it is back above that 8-period exponential moving average, so it wouldn't surprise me one bit if it starts to move higher and threatens the upper parallel channel line. That's the word I was looking for. But Nano Dimensions is still strong. Another stock that is on my watch list is IDEX. This one has started to move higher after this rounding bottom consolidation. If we go a little intraday, we can see that the trend is starting to accelerate, and it has moved higher past this resistance area. And if it holds it and starts to move higher again, then we are in trend acceleration mode. And I wouldn't be surprised to see IDEX make some pretty good gains. Probably it wouldn't surprise me if it made it up to the $1.50 area pretty quick. So this is definitely something I'm watching. If it pulls back and starts to move higher again, I think I'm going to look to enter this one. As of right now, this is just the signal that it's starting to move into a faster trend. It's not the trigger signal for me anyway. I like to see a retest and then another move up before I enter these kind of fast trends. All right, another stock that I did a video about is Cody, and this one is starting to threaten that upper resistance area that I drew on one of the old charts. I didn't think it was going to make it this high this fast, but it's just showing you how strong this chart is. And if I go to the hourly chart, we can see that the trend is already starting to accelerate higher. So it's going to be interesting to see how it deals with this resistance area. If it ends up blasting through it like a warm knife through butter, then we could be off to the races on Cody and threatening the upper trend line of this falling wedge pattern. So we'll go back to the daily chart so we can see it a little easier. But very, very, very strong chart in Cody. Now another chart that was on my watch list that I put in one of my previous videos was Rave. And Rave looks like it's breaking down. This is why you don't want to buy these too early. It hasn't broke down yet, but it was getting very, very weak a couple days ago. And it looks like it's still hanging around, but I would say the chances of it breaking higher are a little bit lower now, just because weakness has come into it. It hasn't been a big down push, but it's starting to head down to this lower area of the rounding bottom, and if it does pop down through that and doesn't get back above it quick, then this trend will be negated. And here's another one that I had on one of my other videos, Adamas Pharmaceuticals, and this is another reason why you want to wait. Put this on one of my other videos when it was right around this area, and I was hoping for another move up above that 8-period exponential moving average, and this obviously was a false breakout here because it never had enough strength to get going again, and now it is gapping lower. This is why you don't want to enter these trades until it confirms that the trend is going to be accelerating, because if you get one of these, if you buy too early and then it just breaks down because it's weak, then you got to take your loss here. But the trigger signal never happened, so you should have never entered this stock, and that will keep you out of trouble if you wait for that last step. Sometimes in retrospect, when you look back and you're thinking, why would I buy up here when I could have bought down here? It's because you're waiting for that trigger signal. What that trigger signal is going to do, you're going to miss out on some of the gains if it does confirm and start to move higher, but it's going to filter out a lot of false signals, just like Adamas right here. Excuse me, sorry about that. And this is what you want to avoid. You want to avoid as many false signals as you can. If you got to give up a little bit of the gains on your big gainers to filter out a bunch of the false signals, trust me, it is definitely worth it. Now, another stock that I have on my watch list right now is CPHI. This is a Chinese pharmaceutical company. And this one has popped up twice on my rounding bottom scan, and it's showing that strength is starting to come into the market when the stock is trading around 41 cents. Some of the volume signals that I get, they can be a little sketch. So the cheaper the stock, the less weight I give to the volume on the screen that I have. But I still keep it on my watch list, and if this one starts to move higher, then I am going to look for one of those trigger signals. So hopefully I can catch it if it does start to move higher. But one more thing that I did want to check on here was I talked about some of the cruise line and some of the other players that have been crushed by the pandemic. It looks like we're starting to get some kind of a rotation into some of these value plays, and it is playing out again today. We can see the cruise lines. People are starting to buy into these cruise line stocks now. This is Norwegian Cruise Lines. The one that is the strongest is Royal Caribbean. Royal Caribbean is moving up into the upper 70s today. It's held that 8-period exponential moving average, and could be starting a new move up because it is pretty much past this resistance. Going back all the way to March, and it touched those two highs in June and in September, and hasn't quite cleared it yet. But one more big up day, and it could be clear of all this recent resistance. The one that I own is probably the weakest, but I started accumulating it in March, and it is Carnival Cruise Line. Carnival Cruise Line is having a hard time getting above this 200-period simple moving average, but once it does, I think, no pun intended, it's going to be smooth sailing for Carnival Cruise Line as well as some of those other cruise lines. I think once the economy starts back up, it might take a year or so, probably at least a year for things to get completely back to normal for the cruise lines. But I'm guessing 3, 4, 5 years from now, we are going to wish we bought the cruise lines when they were in this area once the economy gets back to normal. And that's when you got to buy them when they're cheap, because when they are cheap, the future is not clear. When everything becomes clear, you're paying for it in a higher stock price. But another play that is doing a lot better, that was crushed not only by the pandemic, but because of some of the crashes that they had in some of their planes, was Boeing. But Boeing, it looks like a lot of buying is coming back into Boeing stock, and it has moved past the 200-day simple moving average and is holding that 8-period exponential moving average. And if we go to the hourly chart on Boeing, we can see that this trend is starting to accelerate. We got a higher low, boom, breaks above resistance. Looks like it's going to hold that resistance, and now it is starting to move higher. So some of these value plays that got crushed by the pandemic are starting to show signs of strength. I think we're going to start seeing a rotation into some of these issues. Some of the other ones are the airlines. You can see the airlines. Southwest Airlines is forming a beautiful rounding bottom, and it's breaking out. It's accelerating right now. You can see that these lows were getting higher, and then finally we got that breakout, and it is holding that breakout. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit. I don't own any Southwest Airlines. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if this one starts to accelerate. Another one we can look at, I think that is doing much better, is Delta Airlines. Zoom in on Delta. You can see Delta is forming a rather similar pattern. You know, they were all forming these triangle consolidation patterns, put pressure on the upper resistance area, and they are all breaking above it now. And they are holding the 8-period exponential moving average as well. Go to the hourly chart, and you can just see the strength that it's having currently as it's breaking above the upper resistance line of that triangle consolidation. Another one that was beaten down by the pandemic was Dave & Buster's. And Dave & Buster's is starting to move higher. You're seeing a lot of similar formations in some of these stocks, because this is what happens once a stock gets beaten down like this. Then once it finds a bottom and things appear to be getting better, you start getting this slow creeping trend up where it's basically representing accumulation because the distribution has capitulated. So we are starting to get a move higher in some of these plays. Let me see if I can draw this triangle consolidation on Dave and Buster's, and we can see that it is moving higher. But let me take a look at the market averages before I get out of here, because they are definitely moving higher. I mean, it's pretty much, I hate to say those famous words, but it's pretty much the coast is clear. I mean, this market looks like it's going to be moving higher. So I am glad that I held on to all of my stocks, because I think we are going to get higher prices uh, for the foreseeable future, unless something major comes into the market, because all these averages are holding above their 8-period exponential moving average, and it looks like we're going to be moving into higher ground. Let's look at the NASDAQ real quick. NASDAQ ETF, that is the only one that is lagging. And like I said in some of my other videos, I believe it is lagging because we are starting to get a rotation from some of these tech plays into some of those value plays that have been beaten down by the pandemic. So we get these rotations all the time in the market. This looks like this is the beginning stages of it. I'm not saying that tech is going to get crushed, but you can definitely see that not as much money is flowing into the tech names, at least the tech names on the NASDAQ anyway. So let me look at my favorite stock, Tesla, before I get out of here. And Tesla is another representation of what's going on. But, I mean, Tesla has had such a big move up. So this move sideways is very bullish if it can hold it. And I would expect Tesla to hold it and then eventually to start hooking back up once the rotation is comes back to the NASDAQ stocks. I know Tesla is not in the NASDAQ, but it's definitely one of the more popular tech companies out of there. But that's all I have for you guys on this video. I just wanted to show you that stock that ARK Invest has been accumulating and go over some of these other stock charts of companies that I have been watching and maybe give you guys a couple ideas. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you don't miss any future trading or investing ideas. Thank you so much for watching my video, and until next time, take care everybody.